Pedro from A&P-REACTS. I'm here today with Away from Voivod. How's it going?
I'm great. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on the channel. It's an absolute honor to be here with such a Canadian heavy metal legend as yourself.
Thank you very much.
Let me start off by asking you, when did the idea for this special edition limited EP came about?
Well, it started with last year's show at the Montreal Jazz Festival, and we wanted to do something special. And Chewy thought about the idea of having a brass quintet on stage for the end of Dormancy, and it was a lot of job for Chewy to write the score for every musician in the quintet, and but it paid off, and the reaction was amazing. And so when time came to make a video for the end of Dormancy, it was November last year, where we started shooting it, and we thought it'd be cool to have the quintet in the studio to overdub on top of the studio track the brass part to make it sound like a movie soundtrack. And we all made everything in concordance with a release of a single on vinyl, The End of Dormancy. And so we tried to keep busy, and this was a good opportunity.
I think you guys hit the nail on the head. Listening to the track, it kind of gives you a little bit of that Space Odyssey vibe to the way the track now is, like in this new version of the song. It seems like it has a lot more substance. The original was great, but now it sounds even bigger. It feels like a movie score, like something that was written specifically for a movie.
Yeah, and we tried to have the video look like a movie in a bit, as much as we could anyway. And so first we were a bit reluctant to put it out because the vibe and the visuals and everything is quite in time with the pandemic situation. And it's a sensitive subject. There are lots of casualties and all that. But we decided to try to make a positive move and go on according as the plan, and the reaction is really amazing. People love it. It has a lot of views already, probably around 65,000 already, so which is great for Voivod.
Was this track list your original idea to have these 3 songs, or was this like a moving target for you?
Well, the thing is, we wanted to do a video for The End of Dormancy, and we thought about having the B-side using the Montreal Jazz Fest recordings for The End of Dormancy for the B-side. And then we also, in the end, decided to include The Unknown Knows. And as a sort of a bonus on the B-side as well. But we do have a full album, a full live album that we're working on right now, but it's another show. It's the Quebec City Summer Fest of last year, and that's a full-on set that we're going to release. And we are aiming for the end of the year, but it might be early next year.
Well, considering that there's no live shows, I'm in Toronto, so we're living the same situation in our country, and there's no live shows, no concerts, no nothing. A live album it almost gives you a little bit of hope. It takes you, you know what I mean? Like it takes you back to going to a live show. You can close your eyes and pretend you're at a live show. So I'm sure fans will be looking forward to this release.
Yeah, and also since, like you say, we are in the same situation where the places to play shows are closed still, and so all the Voivod shows are of course postponed, and but we try to seize the opportunity to move forward, and before our rehearsal space closed down here in Montreal, we had made a bunch of recordings for the studio album, and so we're building on that right now, but sharing a Dropbox folder, and we're all like syncing on Logic Pro and trying to move forward, and eventually we'll be able to go back to the studio and jam.
I thought this EP release was great because it gives fans something to listen to now at a time where there's nothing as far as live music is concerned, including two songs from a live setting. It's even a bigger bonus, and also allows you guys to work on something during this period of time where there's no touring, there's no nothing. So what you guys did was create something for the fans, and at the same time give yourselves a little bit of time to work on something else. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, we're trying to keep the projects going and to have one or two release a year, and that's the main goal. And the last few years, we've been touring a lot with Voivod, and now is the time to catch up with a few things that we had in mind, like a Voivod book, a Voivod movie, and all that. So everything is taking shape, and we just keep working on the project and try to just make it move forward all the time.
Yeah, just because there's no live shows doesn't mean you guys are sitting in the sun. You're still busy.
Yeah, all the time. And also on my end, I'm taking the opportunity to scan all the work, the artwork I do on the road and all that, and to have a series of publications. So it's a good time for me in confinement to just grab all the drawings and scan it. I do a lot of art on the road, every city, and so I'm working on a book with the road art I do, and also have this book that came in. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
It's my next release. Just got 4 boxes of these yesterday, so I'm gonna try to make a lot more of my art available because the Words Away book, it's been 10 years, so it's time for me to scan my art.
Would you ever consider doing like an exhibit? I know you're working on the book and publishing it as a book, but would an exhibit be something that would interest you, perhaps with some Voivod music in the background to create an atmosphere, and then people could see your art in that way?
Yeah, I haven't done a lot of exhibits, but a couple of times on the road, I was invited to put my art on the walls of a gallery that was connected to the venue, and I loved the experience. I did only 2 or 3 of these, but especially the one I did at the Roadburn Festival in Holland, and this one had a lot of attraction, and I mean, many people showed up. It was right by the big venue, so um, I'm not doing many exhibits, but whenever it happens, I'm really happy to chat with everybody in the room, and I love it.
You're in Montreal. Montreal, for those that don't know, it's to me, it's a hotbed of metal and culture in Canada. Perhaps one of the cities where you really feel at every step that you take throughout the city how alive the city is as far as music and culture, heavy metal, all sorts of music, jazz, everything. Does coming from that part of the country shape the way you look at music, the way you look at art?
Well, yes, in the sense that progressive rock was really big in Quebec, and we come from northern Quebec, and so prog rock from the 70s was in our blood, even when we started listening to the new wave of British heavy metal and all that, and then a little after hardcore punk, and so we I think that growing in Quebec. It really gave us this prog rock approach to music, and there were a lot of prog rock bands from Montreal as well, and that we listened to, and so that's I think the main point where I thought that, I mean, first I was I didn't think about the fact that Voivod was some sort of prog trash punk, and um, it's only when we started touring with Celtic Frost, Creator, Possess around the world that I realized there were just a few bands like that were experimenting in that vein. And but at first it just came naturally to us. We didn't sit down and tell each other we're going to play that type of music. It's just like all the different influences. And it's when we moved to Montreal in '85. Uh, um, I realized that many bands in Montreal were playing a type of music that was reminiscent of Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, and not that many people were into thrash metal at all. And but there were a lot of hardcore bands. And but soon enough, we started to cross paths with Montreal bands all around the globe, Cryptopsy, Gorgot, Cataclysm, and now there are tons of bands that are like technical metal. In a sense, it's sort of the trademark of Quebec and Canadian metal in a way. I don't know if it comes from Rush and Anvil but it's sort of Canadian metal bands have a reputation of being very technical and tight.
Yeah, and I think that you're 100% right on that. One thing I wanted to ask you is, listening to those two tracks at the Jazz Festival in Quebec, you really feel, I think it really captured the essence of the energy between the band and the fans on those two recordings. When you guys play at home, is it a completely different vibe than when you're on the road?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's always a lot more stressful to play in front of all of your friends and family and stuff. Um, but I myself, I am the lucky one because I can hide behind the tones and the cymbals, it's sort of always the same. I'm not even anxious or anything. I'm just excited to go and play drums. But there were a couple of times where I was more nervous when we toured with Rush for Nothing Face. I had seen Rush many times, and I had seen openers getting booed off the stage, but finally it went super well. And when we played Astronomy Domain, the Pink Floyd song, the crowd was louder than the music in Montreal, Toronto, and so ended up being a beautiful experience. And sometimes it's a total other context where, let's say, a couple of years ago, we played the Quebec City Summerfest with Metallica, and there were like 100,000 people. It was just insane. And it seemed like a vague mass of beings to me. So I didn't really lose my focus. But the next day, we played a surprise show in the street for the squeegee punks and the passersby, and I was more nervous at that show, right there with the people in the street. So it's strange.
What do you see as being the secret for the longevity of Voivod?
Well, there is a lot of perseverance involved, and I don't know what to say. At times, people were just telling me I was crazy to keep going, and I really had self-doubt. But I was always passionate with playing Voivod music on drum, and the travels kept me going, and so uh, I think that's the main thing is the travels. I just loved going on the road and meet the friends, same friends, new friends, friends with their kids. It's over 37 years. It's been just an amazing ride with a couple of road accidents, but you do so much road,
Yeah.
shit happens, and I think that um, you have to be a bit crazy in a way and believe that it's worth it. But in the end, it really paid off in the sense that we are enjoying more success now than we've ever had, and the clubs are packed, and so I think that we eventually jumped into the classic thrash metal where we are really respected, and we share stages everywhere around the globe with friends from the 80s like Exodus, Testament, Megadeth, Destruction, Creator. So um, uh, it's I think now we just have the love and respect of both the public and the industry. It's really hard to get, but we did it over 37 years.
No, I had to ask you that question because I discovered Voivod before I came to Canada. I was born in Portugal, and in the late '80s, I discovered Voivod as a young kid. And to see where you guys were then, where you guys are now, is a question that I had to ask you because not a lot of bands can say that. Not a lot of bands can have that longevity and quality of music across all of those years.
Yeah, we are very lucky because um, people listening to Voivod are super loyal. They come to the shows, they buy the albums, and so we really owe it to them, to be so loyal. And sometimes when we were a bit disillusioned and didn't know if we should split up, or we always thought that these people, which we call the Iron Gang, we always thought that they deserve a new album, a new show, this and that, and we always go the extra mile and try to make it happen. And sometimes I mean, despite the obstacles, we were able to do something like 20 or 21 albums, including the live ones and all that. So it's a pretty good catalog right now. So we're just gonna keep going.
Was winning the Juno for the Wake past due? Do you feel like it was about time that the band got the recognition it deserved?
Oh, well, it was just super wonderful because I must say that we really didn't think we were going to win, and we learned it as everybody when the name Voivod was pronounced, and we were so happy to get the award that the people in the room felt the joy and happiness, and everybody was happy for us. So it was a wonderful night, and it had a lot of it had a great incidents on what happened next. Um, I mean, we released the Wake, and all of a sudden the clubs are getting packed, and then all of a sudden we're getting this nomination, and then we do this crazy US tour with Yab, and then many festivals, and so it's a snowball, and we really don't take it for granted, and we are really grateful to the Juno committee and everything.
Sometimes it's always nice to get an award. Everybody loves to get an award, regardless of what the award is. But do you feel for a band like Voivod, does this award change a lot for you guys, or it's just the nice recognition that you guys received, but it's business as usual as far as the business side of the band and even the creative side of the band?
Oh, I mean, it's um, there are a lot of benefits from it in the sense that it created a buzz, and we got a lot of exposure from it, and it's all positive, and so I think that it's been uphill ever since we released the Wake, and um, of course we had a whole bunch of shows lined up this summer in the fall, so who knows. Uh, so uh, Hopefully, by working on a live album, a new album, this, that, we won't lose the momentum. But winning the Juno Awards got us attention even from Quebec à Disque, which asked us to perform on their TV ceremony and all that. So it's really all positive, and uh, it's really great because I mean there is a lot of work involved in writing like a intricate album like The Wake. It's great that this pays off in the end. So it's a good indication of the path we probably should follow for future albums. But being Voivod,
You never know.
I go the way.
Yeah, considering that The Wake received this award and all of this recognition, does that make it the best Voivod album ever, or is just the one that got recognized? How do you look at that from that perspective?
Well, it's a tough position for me to. I mean, I have two favorite albums right now. It's from Voivod, and these are Killing Technology and The Wake. And so I think you'd have to ask people who's aware of the whole catalog if The Wake is best. But many people think it's up there with Nothing Face and Damage and Hatros and The Outer Limits. But I must say that Rocky and Chewy they grew up with Voivod, listening to Voivod, playing songs of Voivod. They know every era from the 80s thrash metal to the 90s really heavy stuff with Eric to the stoner punk metal stuff with Jason, and they love all the eras. And so there are ingredients of all the signature albums, I think, with a new twist, almost like a fusion metal twist. So I think that's why people love it so much. They can recognize Angela Roar, but with something new, and so it's a great challenge for us to be innovative after so many experimental material we're releasing.
What's the most challenging album you feel in the discography of the band that for you perhaps give you the most amount of work, the most amount of time in order to narrow it down?
I think that the two most intricate albums to play on drums would be Damage and Hatras and The Wake for me. Yeah, I can't be when I play the songs from these albums, I can't afford to be distracted by anything. I just focus.
You can hide behind the drums, but you have to stay focused on what you're doing.
For sure. Because if I miss the curve, everybody goes in the field.
I have one more question for you, and that it has to do with Canada and the music business and the music scene in Canada. Do you feel like there's something the government could be doing more in order to help young bands, to help the music scene, either be in Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, or even outside of those big cities? You travel around the country, you've traveled around the world. If there's somebody that knows Canadian music, is you. So how do you see that? Do you feel like there's more that could be done?
Well, it's really tough. But I know that in Scandinavia, some countries in Scandinavia, you can apply to have a rehearsal space for free if you start a band, from what I was told. And I think that would be a very good start. That's nowadays, especially if you live downtown Toronto or Montreal, to have a tiny rehearsal space, it's super expensive. And I'm sure it's a deterrent to younger bands and start. So that could be a starting point, I think.
I know in Iceland, they also give some funding for the recording studio. So if you want to record an album in Iceland, even if you're not from Iceland, if you want to go and record there, they give you, I think it's something between 25 and 50% refund, which is crazy.
That's amazing. And I know that if you let's say you go to the main library downtown Montreal, you can record an album. They have studio for free with digital recording equipment and a microphone and everything. But you can't really bring a guitar or a drum in there. But if you're like an electro or rap artist or a hip hop, it's a great approach.
Well, Wei, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate chatting with you about Voivod, about Canada, Canadian music. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for your time. Best of luck with this EP released July 10th on Century Media. and I'll be looking forward to that full-length album and that live recording.
Thank you very much for having me. Hopefully we'll see you next year on the road.
I'm hoping. I mean, I haven't been able to catch you guys on a live show yet, so I'm hoping that once this COVID is over, either I make the trek up to Montreal or you guys on a tour come and stop in Toronto, which you guys always do, and I'll get to see you guys live. It would be an absolute pleasure and honor to be at one of your live shows.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.